Hi YouTube, Virtue here with you for another clip. I'm going to not actually read somebody's email word for word. This is someone that actually asked me for their help some time ago, and I'm going to actually just talk about the email anonymously and generically, but actually talk about what this lady was speaking to me about and her concerns. Okay, so I got an email some time ago with someone who was concerned about attracting spirits. They had felt that all their life everything was starting to focus on strange occurrences. Some of the occurrences this lady described to me were things like objects going missing and then turning up without any explanation. There were concerns of people sleeping on the property that were being physically moved by something of a night. There were things being knocked over in various rooms of the house, although she did concede that that could have been to do with the household pets because there were numerous. There was also things like turning up, going to stay in places that she knew she was that were haunted, and she would experience many things to the point where she became very scared of what was happening to her. She also speaks about being in one of these sort of hotels where something quite evil she felt was after her, and she said that it was shaking the bed, and she said that it felt like someone was actually shaking the bed while she was in it. She said that she's never been so scared in her life. It really, and she went on to say that it really affected her. You know, she suffered health issues because of it. She said that she was really scared that this last entity was going to possess her in some way and going to do real damage to her. And she was really quite freaked about the whole thing. She left off in the email by saying to me, "Do you think I'm mad? Do you think this is my imagination, or is this happening?" Now, the other thing I must mention, that this woman tended to come across to me as someone that was quite excited about the paranormal in a sense, although as it sort of deepened, she got quite frightened. And there's nothing wrong with being excited about the paranormal. You know, I encourage people to sensibly, using their common sense, explore the paranormal, sure. But as I said with these emails that I don't do a reading. Normally what I would do is I would engage my spiritual team. I would engage my own abilities to lock into the person myself. I'd do a tarot reading, I'd explore it. I didn't do this in this case. What I'm doing here is just giving her advice from my experience. And my experience is, number one, let's deal with the last issue first. Anyone experiencing a paranormal event for the first time, or for the times when you're starting to be really believing that this is actually real. You know, we all go through stages, I know I've been through them myself, where you get communications from the dead but you don't quite believe it. You think, oh no, this is... And you can dismiss it because you think, no, this is just my imagination. I mean, especially for me, I'm a painter, I'm creative, I've got an incredible imagination. I wrote this all off as my imagination for years, and it wasn't that. Because you will come up with events, and I think to me, this woman is being quite right in her fear and her concerns, because what seems to be happening to me is she's got so excited about the paranormal. There's nothing wrong with that. She's gone along, she's sort of found these things happening in the house, but they're not being too bad. She's thought, oh, well, I can dismiss this. It could be the dog, it could be the cat making those sounds. Then she's come up against something that really has literally shaken her, and it's made her realize that this is actually real. Now, this is the dead tapping on your shoulder, saying, hello, you can hear me. Why won't you do anything about it? I would safely say that this woman has abilities to contact the dead, but now she needs to go through the process of actually grounding these, putting these into context. So, last point of this email first. No, I don't think you're insane. I think it's not your imagination, but I think in your process through this, you still need to be skeptical. You need to validate what they're doing, and you need to keep up. I have to mention too, with her email, she did say to me that she was trying to debunk and explain these things. That is exactly what you've got to keep up as well. And I think that's why you're getting to the point where you do believe this. I've seen so many people involved in hauntings for the first time where they get to a point where they cannot explain what's going on. And this causes quite a crisis in your life, and you should not be underestimating what an impact it has on you. If I can generalize, we live in a Western world, I'm assuming here. I can only speak from my Western perspective, where we're brought up to believe that, dogmatic religions are the way to go, and if you want spirituality, you talk to them. Most of these ones that are sort of conservative ones deny that the dead exist and that the dead can do anything. I was brought up like that too, where it was a ridiculous thought to say that the dead were actually going to have some sort of impact or communication with you. That was ridiculous. And then suddenly, let's fast forward all these years, and suddenly you're involved in this situation where you cannot explain what's going on anymore. It's going to have an impact, and you need to relax about that. Let's not go on, because I've done this for years in varying levels of understanding what the dead can actually do. Even up until today, I'm still shocked at what they can show me and the way they can impact me. But I've learnt to relax about it, because I know I'm not insane. I know it's not my imagination. It would be irrational for me to say it wasn't. Now, I'm not saying with this woman that this is the case. She probably needs to do a lot more debunking and a lot more skepticism. Never forget skepticism when you're dealing with the dead, because if they're legitimate, they won't care. They won't be offended. They won't not talk to you. They'll actually, from what I found, treat you with more respect, because they think, yeah, this woman's really trying to explore our world properly, or thoroughly. So with the other issues that she's having, with the bed shaking, you're starting to go up levels here. That's the issue. Now, what you've got to learn to do when you deal with the dead, and if indeed, because I think this woman is becoming a medium, I think that's what's happening to her. She's having a spiritual awakening. You have to lose the fear, and you have to get commanding. I can tell you that is so important. I would also research people that have had this happen to them. Read other mediums, and don't just read the good ones, read the bad ones, read all of them. get as much information as you can. Get on YouTube, try and find out. And I mean, it's difficult with YouTube because there's so many fakes in YouTube, there really is. But try and see if you can understand which ones are not fake. And you should know, because the fakes really don't stand up to the real thing. But research, even look at the fakes, look at the bad, look at the good, look at them all. So you'll get an idea of what other people are going through. And you certainly need this. Get on some forums as well and talk about this. It's the only way you can sort of deal with it. It's a difficult situation. I went through it myself recently. I've always had an ability to deal with the dead, but I moved from Australia to London, and it was just, I was absolutely annihilated by the dead. I had them coming from everywhere because they knew I could hear them, and London is so very haunted. I've just gone through another process of having to ground it and having to fit it into my life and having to say, all right, this is the way it is. How do I handle this? But you also have to remember, lose the fear. From my experience, the entities that can really hurt you are in the minority. The majority of them can't. They may scratch you, they may bruise you, they may frighten you, but that's about all they can do. Stand up to them. And that's what you're going to have to learn to do. So that was the advice I gave that woman. And I hope it helped her. And I think that's about all I really want to say about this clip. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to join you on another clip. Anyway, that's me signing off. If you'd like to subscribe, please do. And please look at some of my other clips. And hopefully, I'll catch up with you again soon. Bye for now.